Hello viewer and welcome back to the shed. Got a little bit of a special treat for you today. I'm doing some stuff for my wife that I thought you might like to see. A horse mounting block. But before we get to that, a little bit of something super special that I've been working on for me that I haven't released a video about. It's the new welding bench. So a lot like the workbench. Actually, it's exactly the same. But this one's got my welding gear on the bottom, so therefore it's the welding bench. Got this finished up just the other day. Hasn't been painted, but it's all together. And I'm really happy with how it's come together. See if you can get it in frame there. Look at that, lovely. So same as the other bench, 10mm top. You can see my welds are getting a little bit better as I keep going. And then down underneath, I've got my little TIG welder, some leads, a couple of gas bottles, and there's the big boy MIG welder that I've been using to put all this together. But that's not why we're here today. We're here today because I've got some aluminium sheet to cut up. First time welding aluminium, actually. First time using the welding table and welding aluminium. Lots of firsts. But today we're going to have a shot at a horse mounting block. Now, what's that? Well, it's a set of stairs you use to get onto the back of a horse. Why would you want to do that? Don't know, don't care. The wife wants to do it, therefore I'll build it. That's what it's going to look like. Some rough dimensions. It's just going to be made out of this checker plate. You can see I've started cutting pieces up over here. The reason for that, instead of using square tubing to build a frame, is you really don't want any open gaps. Horses spook pretty easily, and if they got a leg caught in the frame of something like a ladder or a step stool, that would make a big mess. So making it solid, 2.5mm checker plate. This should be plenty strong enough once it's all together. And this is what the layout looks like on the sheet. So been busy cutting away here. You can see I've done those ones on the top. That's the kick plates and the tread steps. And I've got the side panels. So I've got these two big side pieces to cut out next, and then that's going to be for the back. So this is what's left of the sheet. It was a full-size sheet. I've been cutting away at it. Something that I found really interesting is that when I was originally cutting out each of these pieces one by one, I was referencing the next straight edge from the first one that I cut. And I'm using the jigsaw. I'm not particularly good at cutting a straight edge, so what I was finding is that any error was compounding, and I had oblong pieces of plate instead of squares. So I've come up with a bit of a better way to do it. I'm assuming here, never do that, but anyway, I'm assuming this straight edge on the side of the sheet is actually straight, and I got a builder's square that I'm using, a roofing square, to mark out my lines. And as you can see, the cuts leave quite a fair bit to be desired. It closes up at the top. So you can imagine if I was referencing that, it's, that's a good 1.5, 2mm out at the bottom. So even though it's pretty good on the top, that would just make the next piece that much worse. So this is the jigsaw that I'm using, cordless Makita unit, and I'm just using a standard metal cutting blade. I was tempted to give the old woodworking blade a shot. It's a little bit coarser. I think this is actually like a 10 or a 12 tooth per inch pitch, which should be about right for aluminium, but it's pretty thick kerf. And so I just got started with the metal cutting blade to see how it would go, and I've been really impressed. I'll have to go back. I don't know if this will come up. You can see there are some burrs on the edges. I'll have to go around with a sanding wheel, but that's really no big deal. Using a little bit of cutting fluid. The internet says do it, so I'm doing it. Don't know if it makes a difference, makes a big mess, but we're getting there slowly. So here we are, and what I'm doing is I'm cutting out the side panel of the stairs. So that's this piece here, and you can see the way I laid this out on the sheet is that this is going to be the left side, and this is offcut is going to be the right side. And when I lined this up in CAD, it's all nice, neat lines, and the lines have got no thickness. So these top pieces, which also come along this edge to minimize the amount of cutting, leaves just a little sliver on the top of the sheet that was going to just sort of be an offcut. And I didn't really think anything of it at the time until I got out here to start cutting. I was a bit lazy, and actually started with these pieces referencing the cut long edge, just to try and keep it a little bit, at least have one straight edge. And so what that did is that moved that little sliver from the top to the bottom. And actually it's come in clutch, because when you allow for the kerf thickness, cutting all these lines, if these two sheets don't mirror perfectly, and actually what happens is that the thickness of the kerf is how much this second sheet needs to be offset vertically. So I've got really lucky where I've got way more than I need, because otherwise this step would be the kerf thickness shorter than the other step. So kind of got really lucky there, complete fluke. I'll remember that for next time. And the other one that I've been doing on the corners to get the jigsaw blade in is I've just been drilling little holes in the corners, so it doesn't look that pretty from the side profile, but by the time you've got plates on the sides and the top for the feet, the step, I'll just weld that in. That's no big deal. Off we go. The other trick is, like I said, because I can't cut a straight line for the life of me, I haven't been using any of these cuts as references for the next cut as I go. I've actually been using these two original straight edges, and I've just been measuring everything off the bottom and the side there to make sure that I measure the points in the right spot, and then just drawing straight lines between them. It's working out pretty well. Alrighty, progress update. All the cuts are made. So this is what it looked like before as the full sheet, and I've inverted it. So this is the 500. That single giant looking piece is actually the stairs. You can see that fits together perfectly. And then up the top, I've got my smaller pieces. So they're all cut up, time to get welding. And first time welding aluminium, I gotta say I'm reasonably happy with that. I don't particularly understand how the settings on the welder work, but I got some numbers that seem to make some kind of sense. I've been practicing on some little coupons, and this looks nasty. And here we are, folks. I got to apologize up front here for not bringing you along for the ride. I kind of mentioned earlier that I haven't welded aluminium before, so I put the camera down to do some practice like this, and before I knew it, the mounting block was done. So there it is. But a bunch of rods, stuck enough times to burn through a couple of tungstens. That's about half the rods that I went through, half a bottle of gas almost, just sort of practicing. I think I probably spent about 6 hours with my finger on the trigger. Yes, a trigger. I don't have a foot pedal. I think I'm going to get one. But to give you an idea, so these are all the practice coupons, or some of them, that I just spent a bunch of time laying welds down. This was one of my first attempts. Focus. And that was one of my later ones. So you can see that was probably about 3 hours worth of welding there. And it took me about 3 hours to put the box together. Unfortunately, what I realized is it's significantly more difficult welding something like this. It's a big unit, and I really struggled just with reach and getting comfortable. These are long runs for the sake of practice. I mean, you can see there, that's the result of where I, see if that works, there we go. That's a result of where I stuck the tungsten. These were the corners where I had drilled out the holes, and you can see some of these welds are not bad, and some of it's really messy. I certainly didn't get it all done in a single pass. On a length of a step there, which is about 285 mil, I could get most of the way through with a single stick of filler material, but these long welds nowhere near, and I just really couldn't get comfortable. And you can see there's holes there, and that's where I had to restart. It's just, you know, wobbles around and is real wonky. But like I said, so for the sake of practice and just to also for safety, I mean, this is a stair that set of stairs that people are going to be using hopefully for a very long time. By just welding everything up, I give myself a pretty decent safety margin. So there it is. I'm actually really happy with it. I can get on top of it, jump up and down, and it doesn't go anywhere. Weighs about 20 kilos, so one person can quite easily move it, even though it's quite bulky and a bit cumbersome. It's not too hard to pick up and move around, and it's nice and high for people to stand on the top and get on top of the horses. So there it is. Thanks for coming along for the ride. It's been a long video. Hope you liked it. I'll catch you on the next one.